Hello and welcome to the Thrunite channel. Today I want to have a discussion comparing something like this power bank, which has an integrated flashlight in it for emergencies, compared to having one of the Thrunite TS1s or TS2s. Because both of these serve the same purpose. We have a unit that's able to recharge items in an emergency, as well as the capability of having lights. Now for this demonstration, I'm using this Frog & Co. Battery charger. All right, this is a power bank that has an integrated flashlight in it. This particular one happens to have a solar panel. I found that these solar panels aren't, super useful just because you need a direct amount of sunlight. I've tried using these on somewhat cloudy days. If you have, very, very strong direct sunlight with no trees or anything like that in the way, or buildings or shadows, it's okay, but it does charge fairly slowly. This is just representing power banks in general. There's so many different ones on the market for so many different price tags, but something that's very commonly featured on these is their emergency flashlight. So in this particular case, if I turn this on, just push and hold, it turns on that light. All right, so when you're charging something in an emergency, you do have the capability of having light. But I wanted to compare that specifically to the TS1 and the TS2 from Thrunite, because these are serving the exact same purpose. All right, so let me put this off to the side here. All right, I have one charging cable, although these do come with their own. All right, if you're not familiar, the TS1 has a 3400 milliamp battery inside of it. It's an 18650. All right, and this little head unit just attaches to the side. There's a charging port for it. All right, and compared to the Thrunite TS2, which has a 21700 lithium ion battery, and this one has a 5000 milliamp hour battery, all right, for its size. Now this particular charging pack here has 6500 milliamp hour charging capability. All right, so this also sells for about $80. Now again, this is just representing these battery banks or charging banks in general. And of course, they will vary quite a bit depending on how much you're spending. But for the $80 price tag, you could have purchased both of these lights for $30 each. All right, and combined, they have more than the 6500 milliamp hour capacity. They have over 8400 milliamp hours. And specifically, if you bought the TS2, which has a 21700, you'd have 10,000 milliamp hours of battery. All right, so the advantages with these are pretty much dedicated flashlights, which have a secondary purpose of charging things in emergency, compared to this, which is its primary purpose is to charge things, and this flashlight is a secondary purpose. All right, so when you're trying to store different types of electrical items for emergencies, maybe there's some kind of a power outage by you, maybe because of weather, or whatever the case may be, at night, of course, you're going to want to have different lighting options. Now, the advantage to this battery pack, obviously, is the fact that it does have this solar panel that comes out. But like I said, especially at night, you're not going to be able to charge that with solar power. That's just a bonus if you happen to be charging it during the day. But the big disadvantage is once this is depleted completely, you need to recharge this unit, because once this is out of power, that's it. It's no longer functional. The difference between that and these TS1 and TS2 is the fact that you could buy spare batteries, and when this battery is depleted, you don't have to charge it right away. You can simply pop this unit off, put it on a fresh charged battery that you already have waiting, and you're good to go again. All right, so whether you have two different ones, if you have a TS1 and a TS2, or if you have multiple of one in model, or you can just have one model and just buy spare batteries. Maybe you have the TS1 and you have an additional 3 extra 18650 batteries. So in an emergency situation, you may not know how long the power is going to be out, and perhaps you run this until it's dead. You don't have the option to charge it when there is no power. But in this case, you don't have to recharge it. You could just easily swap it out, again, for a new battery that's already charged. All right, so that's one major advantage to having these. The other advantage that I see is obviously the type of light that it's emitting. We have this full dome. All right, so when you turn these lights on, and put this into high here, all right, you can see the capability of light, which is shining in every which direction. Although this is fairly bright. Of course, the company doesn't mention exactly how many lumens it is, but you can see this is pretty much directional. And it's also a very large, heavy, cumbersome unit to actually hold to use that light. This obviously has its advantages. I do prefer the warm LED compared to the cool LED that you're going to find on most of these units. But the biggest advantage obviously is just its form factor. All right, these are about 4 inches long. They weigh under 4 ounces. It is distributing light in every which direction. So let's say I wanted to use the bathroom or something in a power outage. I can easily hang this, with this clip here, or I can magnetize the bottom to something, and it emits light in the entire room, right? Especially if it's a smaller room. That is a huge advantage compared to one of these battery packs. So I happen to prefer the TS1 and TS2 to the charging packs. Of course, I do like having both. But again, the major disadvantage here is the fact that once this is depleted, that's it. All right. Another disadvantage is that most of these battery packs, have older technology. This particular one I've had for a couple of years. All right. And if you notice the charging port that's here, let me zoom in for you real quick. All right. There's two USB outs, which is nice, but the charging port here is a micro USB. Now you compare that to the charging cable that you're going to get with the TS1 or TS2. All right, not only do you have 3 different options here, okay, which is much more modern than the micro USB, but you also have the option of using USB or USB-C. And the USB-C is a lot faster charging, right? So it's just a more modern technology. It's a little bit more capable than using the old style micro USB. Now, of course, in a real emergency, it's great to have as many options as possible. Ideally, you'd have large power banks, you'd have a bunch of these smaller power banks, and you'd have probably a dozen or so of these TS1s and TS2 models. But realistically, money is always an option, and not a lot of people put that much money into emergency preparations. So if you had to choose between one or the other, I would certainly choose either TS1 or TS2. As far as which model to choose, it really just depends on what kind of flashlight you have. Obviously, the TS1 is sporting an 18650. If you happen to have a bunch of flashlights that have 18650 batteries, this would probably be the better option to choose. Whereas if you happen to have a bunch more 21700 style batteries, then the TS2 might be better for your particular situation. But I do find that these have many more advantages over just a traditional battery bank like this. So there's just something to think about in case you're looking to buy more preparation items, specifically emergency style flashlights. There's a lot in the market out there, and they all have their pros and cons. Of course, price is a big determining factor. But the fact that you can get these for $30 a piece, and they have so many different available options to charge all of your modern electronics, I just prefer them. I prefer them over these power banks, but I still do like storing these power banks just as kind of backups. I would use these first, and if I go through a couple of batteries and I have a prolonged emergency situation, in the case that I may have a power outage for multiple days or even weeks, then obviously as these are completely depleted and the spare batteries are depleted, then I would go to some of the larger power banks. This one again is a little bit outdated just because of its capacity. Obviously as time went on, technology advanced, and they had much more output in smaller units. This one's fairly large for 6500 milliamp hours, but they of course make all kinds these days. But anyway, just something to think about. Now, if you don't know, THRUNITE does giveaways all the time. All you have to do to participate is subscribe to this channel, as well as comment on these videos. Thanks for watching.